Crystal light shimmered across the ballroom, every surface polished to perfection. Then came the slip wine, tipping Bordeaux's, spilling like blood across the cuff of a 1,000 suit. Naomi moved instantly, cloth in hand, her voice low steady. "I'm so sorry, sir." She reached forward with practiced care, but Charles Drake recoiled, eyes narrowing, venom curling in his throat. "Don't touch me, you stupid fool." The insult cracked through the room like a gunshot in velvet. Conversations collapsed. Forks froze. The music faltered into silence. Naomi stopped where she stood, cloth still folded, apology unspoken on her lips. She did not beg again. She simply met the moment with silence, unblinking as though carved from iron. Around her eyes, shifted phones, tilted discreetly, and at the edge of the room, a quiet staffer pressed record. Jackson's lens caught the words that would unravel an empire. Naomi was 26, yet the weight on her shoulders belonged to a lifetime. Her mother had died when Naomi was still in high school, the kind of death that leaves rooms silent and bills multiplying. There was no father to lean on, no safety net waiting beneath her. The very next morning, responsibility clamped itself onto her shoulders like iron chains. Her younger brother, frail since birth, looked up at her with trust too heavy for his small frame. His body fought him every day, but his smile could outshine the dark. Naomi carried both grief and duty, walking away from the track, where she once ran like the wind medals glinting in the sun. She had dreamed of championships, endorsements, even the Olympics. But dreams do not pay hospital invoices. Dreams cannot feed a child who needs her more than any audience. So she chose survival. She chose him. And in that choice, something inside her shifted her body, no longer chasing finish lines, but her spirit, learning how to endure marathons of another kind. The world would never see her as an athlete again, but the discipline, the steel, the refusal to collapse, those remained buried under the quiet surface of a waitress's uniform. Her life became a cycle measured not in days, but in shifts. Mornings blurred into nights, nights into mornings again, as she pieced together 3 jobs across 6 relentless days. Each week, she worked kitchens that never slept, retail counters where the fluorescent lights hummed through exhaustion, and hotel corridors that smelled of polished brass and perfume masking fatigue. Every paycheck was a puzzle piece, one for rent, one for therapy sessions, one for medications that kept her brother's fragile body steady. Sleep was no longer rest, but a ration stolen in slivers. 30 minutes here, an hour there, enough to keep her body upright, but never enough to silence the ache. Sometimes tears burned behind her eyes, but she never let them spill. Not at work, not where the world could see. Grief was private, duty was public. To the world, she was efficient, steady, uncomplaining. Inside, she repeated a single truth like a prayer. Resilience was not glamorous, but it was necessary. She learned how to keep moving when the body screamed to stop. She learned how to smile when the spirit wanted to break. Naomi became a symbol, not through choice, but through endurance, proof that survival itself can be an act of defiance, a quiet rebellion against despair. When offered easier jobs, quiet offices, safe routines, Naomi turned them down. Instead, she chose the elegant chaos of luxury hotels, where polished marble floors echoed the footsteps of power. It was not the pay that drew her, though it helped. It was proximity. Here she could observe the world she would never be invited into. She studied the cadence of conversations whispered over crystal glasses, the sharpness of glances exchanged across polished tables. She watched the pauses, the silences, the subtle shifts in posture that carried more weight than words. Power, she discovered, moved like smoke, unseen but suffocating. Cruelty often masqueraded as confidence, and kindness was rare enough to be memorable. Serving champagne became less about the poor and more about the lesson, how men treated those who could not advance them, revealed everything. Nomi wore invisibility like armor, slipping through rooms where billion-dollar futures were decided with a handshake. Each tray she carried was not just service, but access. Each silence, she endured another page in her private study of human nature. To anyone else, she was background noise. To herself, she was gathering a map of the world's truest currency character. And one day, that map would guide her out of the shadows. Charles Drake's name was once whispered with admiration. Now it carried an edge of fear. He had begun in a cramped dorm room, surrounded by wires, coffee cups, and an obsession with victory. From that seed grew Drake Nova Technologies, a colossus of glass towers and endless zeros. But the story told in glossy magazines omitted the shadow. Charles did not build through inspiration. He built through domination. He learned to bend market's rivals and eventually his own people. Control was not a strategy. It was his oxygen. He believed hesitation was death compromise, a disease. He walked into rooms like a storm given flesh. Tailored suits wrapping the violence of his will. To investors, he was a genius. To competitors, a predator. To employees, a name carried like a warning siren. Charles smiled rarely, but when he did, it never reached his eyes. His empire was vast, but its foundation was fear. Inside Drake Nova, his philosophy was carved into policy. People were not individuals. They were extensions of the machine. He had once told a room of executives, "Tools are only valuable if they work. Break one, replace it." And he lived by those words. He dismissed managers not for failing, but for hesitating. An intern once paused too long before answering a question. By the next morning, his badge no longer opened the door. Every corridor hummed with caution. Every meeting bristled with the dread of a single mistake. To outsiders, it was efficiency. To those inside, it was survival. Every day, a test of endurance beneath the gaze of a man who equated fear with respect. His employees avoided his shadow, yet his shadow reached everywhere. Even the silence before he entered a room carried weight, as though the air itself warned, Drake is coming. And when he arrived, storms followed. Among the servers weaving through the glittering ballroom, one figure moved slower, less precise. His tray wobbled once, his step uncertain, as if he were still learning the rhythm of service. Few noticed him. Why would they? He was just another new staffer, young, nondescript, unimportant. He lowered his eyes when spoken to, murmured apologies when brushed aside, absorbed small humiliations without protest. Yet beneath the plain uniform, another identity waited hidden. This man was Jackson, the chief executive of Strauss Holdings, seated not at the head of the table, but disguised among those who cleared it. He had chosen invisibility, stepping down from marble offices into anonymity to witness power without its mask. Tonight, he was the unnoticed eye, the quiet presence gathering truths no one intended to reveal. The irony was sharp. The most powerful man in the room was the one no one bothered to see, and he was watching. Jackson was not born to serve trees. He was the hidden blade of Strauss Holdings, its chief executive handpicked successor to Elliot Strauss himself. Tonight he wore the disguise of a server, not out of necessity, but out of strategy. Elliot had insisted to lead men of power. You must first see how they treat the powerless. And so Jackson traded boardrooms for back halls, mahogany desks for silver trays, to measure character in its raw West estate. Every order barked at him, every